What's up, guys? It's Mr. Fit to Flourish, and welcome to Stocks and Coffee. So this is what we look forward to in the stock market this week. This is what to look for, and this is what happened the past week. So let's do a recap of last week, and also get into what's coming up this week and what stocks we should be looking at to get this shmoney. Okay, let's get to this shmoney. All right. So Stocks and Coffee with K5 and Fit to Flourish. It's currently October 13th. This is going to be for the week of October 14th, 2024. And we always start with a quote. So let's start with a quote. So being wealthy is realizing the control you actually have over your life. It is realizing that I create happiness. So a lot of the time we talk about money in terms of being happy or material things, when in essence, being happy is choosing to show up emotionally in a happy state, emotionally in a high vibrational state. It's choosing the attitude of loving and abundance and gratitude. That's actual wealth. Okay, it's choosing to be happy. So you don't wait for these material things to be happy. You show up happy, and then the material things are attracted to you. That's just how life works. Yo, happy birthday to K5, 10/12/2024, my brother from another mother. All right. And then we do have the best team in the world. We have a lot of resources in our Discord. A lot of people are asking like, oh, I want to see your trades. I want to see join the Discord or just leave me alone. Thank you very much. That's the end of story. But let's get into it. So the weekend review. So we had a ton of great play calls. Of course, we trade QQQ pretty much daily. We traded calls, a ton of calls, and a couple of puts, but mostly just calls this week. The Qs were ripping, Nvidia was ripping as the Chinese market or Chinese stocks were coming down. So tech stocks started to rip, big money started to flow into tech and AI again. So we had some Nvidia swing calls as well. AMD puts went crazy. Crowd calls went way crazy, over 100% on Friday. And they went up 1,000% on Thursday, but we didn't get into them on Thursday. But we'll get into that a little bit. And then Tesla puts. We had a couple of guys get into the Tesla puts. We talked about them in detail and what to expect from the event, and that came into fruition. And then we talked about previously, like the middle portion of this year, like July, like June, July, August. It was just a time to be cautious. Okay, it was really just a time to be cautious. But right now, there's a ton of opportunity in the markets. We saw Chinese stocks. We saw opportunities with Google. We saw a ton of opportunity. And there's still a ton of opportunity right now, especially with tech and the SPY and S&P 500 and QQQ just ripping to all-time highs. Well, QQQ hasn't reached its highs yet, but S&P 500 is reaching all-time highs. All right, and then Nvidia is breaking out. But we have great live discussions every night, and we talked about market direction, fib retraces. We did education on shorting stocks and what that looks like, and then reading the volume RSI or the relative strength index, which is a momentum indicator. It's an oscillator. Okay, so it's a leading indicator. And then we had an options intro masterclass, and we also had a stocks and trading masterclass. We have more classes coming up in our group. And then tomorrow or today, 10/13/2024, we're also going to be talking about key levels. So we're going to have a short class on key levels. All right. In terms of earnings this past week, so we had Delta Airlines. They missed revenue and EPS, but their sales exceeded expectations. They had a couple of hiccups this year. As you know, the CrowdStrike event caused a lot, a lot of delays, and also a lot of canceled flights. Okay, and then we had the two hurricanes hit. We had Milton and Helene, also caused a ton of canceled flights. Okay, and then the stock was pretty much unchanged, even though we had these this revenue miss and EPS miss. It was really small misses, but sales were exceeding expectation. And like I said, there was a ton of hiccups. So Delta kind of did a little bit better than what investors were expecting, considering all these hiccups. Okay. And it is during election time, so election time flight demand is typically lower, and Delta kind of guided that. But they did say that they expect a strong holiday flight demand towards the end of the year in December. Okay, so that was their forward guidance, and it's very realistic, very realistic. So Delta's still kind of holding up at the same levels as before earnings. And then we had our big banks present earnings on Friday, and overall, this is what happened. So we had J.P. Morgan, Wells Fargo, and BlackRock. Banks profits dropped from a year ago, but it was less of a drop than forecasted, okay, by analysts. So this was good. This looked good. Basically showing that the consumer is still strong. They're paying their bills. They're paying off their credit cards. It's a good sign. It's a good sign for the economy, okay? Shares of Wells Fargo and JP Morgan actually rose to the highest one-day gain since February of 2023 and April of 2023, respectively. Both companies combined represent almost 1/4 of all U.S. customer deposits. Okay, 1/4 of all U.S. customer deposits. So the bank earnings reports looked pretty decent. Okay, and the banks ripped on Friday because of this. Expectations were pretty low, and yet they did a lot better than expected. All right. The loan demand is still pretty low though due to high interest rates, but we're going to see the impact of the 50-point basis cut with loans. So once these rates come down, then there's going to be a pretty bad impact in terms of interest income for these banks. But then we are going to see an uptick in people and consumers taking out loans. So that's going to be good. That's in effect going to be really good for revenue for banks. All right. And then in terms of economic data, man, China. So China held this pop-up briefing discussing economic growth package, and man, this thing was hyped up to the T. And then it comes and it disappoints. And overnight, Chinese stocks tank. I'm talking about absolutely tank, wiping out hundreds of millions, if not billions, in market cap from some of these Chinese stocks, okay, listed on the NYSE. So this was hyped up and it disappointed investors. Huge drop. And it was right at the end of the Chinese holiday. So we were expecting a lot of influx of Chinese money to come into these US-based Chinese stocks, okay? And or Chinese-based U.S. stocks, sorry, Chinese companies. Anyways, but the Chinese companies, they tanked. I was big mad because I was like, man, this is going to be an opportunity. I wasn't personally in because I already got in previously and made pretty good money on it. So didn't want to get in. I wanted to see what would happen and kind of ride the wave if there was one. But yeah, it tanked. Okay. Initial jobless claims came in a little bit higher. CPI came in higher. PPI came in higher. So what's going on? They came in slightly higher, okay, just a tad higher. I know some people were freaking out, but if they came in lower, then the market would be absolutely ripping out of this world. So it's a good thing in my opinion that it didn't just come in lower. But yeah, it looks like it's these economic indicators are coming just a little bit higher. So we're expecting now either a 0-point basis cut, so an unchanged rates with the next FOMC, or there's about an 80% chance for a 25-point basis cut, not a 50. Okay, the market would love a 50-point basis cut again, but it looks like it's gonna be a 25-point cut. Right, and then in related news, ton of news this week, a lot of opportunities. So Nvidia had like some sort of AI event going on, and it was breaking out from a 4-month downtrend. Okay, the key level that it was breaking above was 126.43. Target is 139. Okay, 139. We're currently trading around 135, having a tough time around that psychological level. We should be breaking pretty soon, especially with news. China stocks. So the China holiday is over and stocks tanked. We talked about that. So in terms of Bitcoin fell to support. So Bitcoin did a Fibonacci retracement. It fell like really hard, bounced to a Fibonacci golden pocket, came back down, created a double bottom, and now it's on its way back up. And it's looking like it's going to break out. Okay, a Fibonacci retracement double bottom typically goes all the way back to the initial move, which would send Bitcoin to 66K this week. So be on the lookout for Bitcoin going to 66K. MSTR was flying. Michael Saylor said that he wants to be the leading Bitcoin bank. So MSTR was absolutely flying this week. It moved 20.44%. And Bitcoin is expected to break out into the end of year. Many analysts are thinking it's absolutely going to rip to 71K plus. Okay. All right. And then in terms of the AMD 1010 event, so new chips they presented a ton of new technology, new chips, but it's still no competition for Nvidia. So the stock actually dropped from the 171, 172 level all the way down below the key level at 168.66 down to 162. That's another key level. And then on Friday, it bounced back up to 168, which is, again, a golden pocket retrace back to the upside. So watch this 168.66 level. I think we're going to probably reject and then come down to 162. But if we have a lot of momentum, upside momentum, then we'll break above that and go to our next set of key levels. Tesla. So Tesla had its Hollywood event. The stock dropped over 10%. TSLL, so leverage Tesla, was down 20%, over 20%. And Tesla fell out of this upward channel that it had in anticipation. It had a run-up anticipation into the event. But everyone was kind of expecting, hey, robotaxis are coming. And guess what? Elon Musk postpones robotaxis yet again. So in 2019, he said, hey, they're coming out in 2020. Never came out. Then this year, he was like, oh, we're going to do it in, what was it, May? And then he was like, oh, never mind. October is the event. So don't ever listen to Elon Musk because he's always going to postpone stuff. If anything, he's a hype man. So just ride the hype. And then once whatever event he said is coming, once it comes, just buy puts or short the stock. The only thing that could save Tesla is whenever they're announcing an event or earnings is if they create UFOs. Okay, UFOs is the only thing that's going to exceed new investor expectations. The new types of investors in the stock market now are YOLO investors and people who are just riding hype. So we just have to kind of be aware of that. That's just the state of how things are these days. Nobody's holding the bag. Nobody's trying to build an investment portfolio. Everyone's just trying to get money fast. So just understand that and trade accordingly. So yeah, anyway, Uber ripped as it might not have competition for a while because Tesla, their robotaxi should cut costs of ride-hailing services by 60 to 80%, which would be dramatic in terms of beating out Lyft and Uber. But since it's not going to happen, production can only be as early as 2026. Uber has no competition. So Uber ripped on Friday, absolutely ripped. Okay. All right. And then in terms of Florida, so prayers to everyone out in Florida, including myself. Prayers to me. So Hurricane Milton was a Category 5 hurricane. Insurance companies were tanking because, man, oh man, they got to cover hella costs right now. They got to cover some costs. So over 3,000 Florida flights were canceled because of Milton. And this is coming right after Helene. So this is insane. So insurance stocks were tanking and insurance pricing is going up in Florida. And some insurances are even canceling because they can't afford it. They can't afford to be in Florida. Florida is crazy. Florida is like its own country. All right, Amazon Schlamazon. So Amazon is laying off 14,000 managers by 2025. This is good for cost savings. Probably going to replace them with AI. That's fine. It's the future. Whatever. And the Amazon pharmacies are going to be doubling locations, and they're going to offer same-day delivery. This is insane. I personally think that Amazon's going to end up buying out Walgreens. Walgreens is currently trading at like $8 a share or something like that. It's ridiculous. Not doing good as a company. So they're going to be adding Apple TV Plus to Prime Video. Amazon also had Prime Day this week, so we're going to be waiting on those numbers to drop potentially this weekend or maybe Monday or Tuesday. So October 14th, October 15th maybe. But when the numbers drop, if they beat expectations or if they're really big numbers, it's going to take Amazon back towards that $200 level. Amazon's currently trading around $188. And they had a ton of news this week. It came down to the $180 psychological support. And now it's ripping to the upside. Okay. They're also deploying AI-powered package identification technology on 1,000 Rivian delivery vans for faster deliveries. This is crazy. So that's what I'm saying. Like, they had a ton of news drop on like Wednesday, Thursday. So if the Prime numbers come out pretty good, Amazon's going back to 200. It has enough momentum. It came down, balanced orders. So there was a little bit of order imbalance, came down to the downside. Now there's order imbalance to the upside. It could rip. And then Crowd was ripping. Why was Crowd ripping? Well, Delta Airlines directly mentioned that Crowd's effects didn't affect them as much as they thought. So it was only about a $300 million damage as opposed to being in the billions. So Crowd was actually ripping as they were kind of let off the hook by Delta, which means by other companies, they'll be let off the hook as well. But Crowd was absolutely ripping, and there's a gap to fill on Crowd. Like I said, we took advantage of those calls on Friday. All right, so SPY's at all-time highs. The Qs are almost 1.2, like almost less than 1% away from all-time highs. So keep that on watch. And then it is earnings season again. Who is reporting earnings this week? Got a couple more banks. We have Walgreens, we have Goldman Sachs, Bank of America, United Airlines. We have Taiwan Semiconductors. We also have Netflix. So these are the big names. A couple other names like Citi, et cetera, et cetera. But so we have a couple big banks left to report earnings, and then we have a couple big boys that are starting to report earnings. So it's earnings season. It's going to be volatile. Beware. Okay. And in terms of economic data this week, it's not really anything. Monday is Columbus Day, so kind of be aware of that. The bond markets close on Monday. Tuesday, Wednesday is just like, what was it, like ISM services, some dumb stuff that nobody cares about. And then on Thursday is jobless claims, which is what the Fed is paying attention to. So that's really the only thing that matters this week. I don't care what anyone says. Nothing else matters. Nobody cares about housing starts or none of this other stuff. The Fed is paying attention to initial jobless claims. This is what's going to move the market. Okay. I don't care what anybody says. And then in terms of our watch list for this week, these are the stocks we're watching: QQQ, AMD, MU, TSM, Microsoft, Crowd, MSTR, Amazon. All right. Well, that pretty much concludes our Stocks and Coffee. Thank you guys for joining. We do this every single Sunday. If you want to join the team, link in the description below if you want to see our trades live. Like I said, a couple of people were asking. Well, link in the description, or you could just wait for me to drop these YouTube videos with all the gains and be like, oh, I'm missing out. Oh, I'm missing out. Well, I told you to join the community, whatever. Anyways, like, share, subscribe, all that YouTube stuff. I hope you guys have a great one. It's Mr. Fit to Flourish, your boy, and I'm out. Good morning, welcome to the Fit to Flourish podcast. Let's talk wellness, finance, and growth.